All right, the respiratory system. So let's get started. We're just going to do mechanism. Anatomy we'll practice a little bit playing games, but we're going to focus on the mechanisms. Okay, there we go. Okay, so ventilation, knowing that ventilation means to breathe, and that deals with Boyle's law, that pressure and volume are inversely related. So when volume increases, pressure decreases. When pressure increases, volume decreases. They do the opposite, and that's going to lead us all into how breathing works. Okay, so let's start with inspiration. So that's going to be this picture right here, or inhalation. You can call it any of those things. So basically what's going to happen first is your intercostal muscles. So these are the muscles in between your rib cage and your diaphragm are going to contract. And when that occurs, you can see the arrow here, your diaphragm is going to move down. When your diaphragm moves down and your rib cage moves up, it's going to increase the volume of the chest. And when volume increases, the pressure decreases. And gases always move from high to low pressure. So it's going to be like, okay, the pressure is higher here than inside of here. So it's going to move from high to low inside the body until the pressure gets back to zero. So again, intercostal muscles contract, diaphragm contracts, causing the rib cage to rise, diaphragm to drop, and just imagine this area, this volume increases. When the volume increases, pressure, which is inversely related, will decrease, causing the gas to flow from high to low, so it's going to go into the body. Okay, so that's inspiration or inhalation, call either one. Okay. Just as you know, just as another thing, if you are exercising, you can use more muscles, pectoralis minor, and more muscles in the ribs. Okay, so expiration is basically the opposite. So let me get all these down, and then I'll move this to this side. Okay, so now it's going to be the opposite. So now everything is more of a passive process. So you are going to relax the diaphragm, relax the intercostal muscles. When that happens, the rib cage drops and the diaphragm rises. And now what happens is your volume has decreased. Okay, and when your volume decreases, your pressure increases. So all the gases in here don't have a lot of place to move, and the pressure increases. And remember, gases move from high to low, so it's going to cause the gases to move out the body. Okay, again, the rib cage goes down, diaphragm goes up because of relaxation, causing the volume to decrease, pressure to increase, high to low, higher here than outside the body. So out it goes. Okay, so that is those processes, and it will keep going until it gets to zero. Okay, so I'll move myself back over. Okay, all right. So now we're going to get to gas exchange. You have external and internal gas exchange. External is between the alveoli and pulmonary capillary. In other words, we're in the lungs. Internal respiration is in the body tissue in which cellular respiration has occurred. So let's start. I'm just going to show you with the picture because I think it's easier that way. So alveoli, alveoli, if you guys remember, are in your lungs. So this is a structure of your lungs, the smallest structure. And it's where gas exchange actually occurs because it's completely covered in capillaries. So as you breathe in, oxygen is in this region. So this is like full of oxygen. At the same time, you have CO2 coming back from all of your tissues because you are due to cellular respiration. So this is high in CO2. This is high in oxygen. Flows from high to low. So that means oxygen is going to go from here to here. Why? Because of a concentration gradient. CO2 is going to go from high to low, here to here. So then now you're in your alveoli, and then it'll be breathed out. Okay, and now oxygen's in here, and now it's going to be carried to your tissues. So it can go through cellular respiration. So that's external respiration. I think external because it deals with the gases that are externally out of your body. Okay, now your internal respiration. So now you're at a tissue. So you're at a liver. So you're oxygenating your liver. You're oxygenating your stomach. You're oxygenating all these different tissues. So let's start here. So your tissues are going through cellular respiration. In other words, it's taking oxygen and producing CO2 as a byproduct. So your tissues are higher in CO2 than oxygen. So just imagine all the CO2 in here. At the same time, you have your hemoglobin or your oxyhemoglobin coming in because all that oxygen that you just breathed in and was in the bloodstream has now come to your tissue. So CO2 is going to flow from the tissue into your bloodstream because from high to low. Okay. oxygen is going to go from the blood into the tissue because, again, it's higher here than it's here because the tissue is constantly taking oxygen and pumping out CO2. So oxygen is being used. So that's internal respiration. Okay, so now we're going to talk about gas transport. Okay, so just as a reminder, oxygen will bind to hemoglobin to become oxyhemoglobin. That one's pretty easy. So I'll show you what it looks like. So oxygen, so this would be the alveoli, right? You breathe in, that due to enduring external respiration, it's going to go from high to low, and it's just going to get right picked up by the hemoglobin to become oxyhemoglobin. Okay, carbon dioxide is a little more complex because there's multiple things that can happen. It can also, so it can either, most of it is going to be picked up as a plasma, as bicarbonate ion, right? So most of it comes by bicarbonate ion. And then when it gets there, it'll just be released back into the CO2. Also, 20% will become carbonominohemoglobin. So it'll be picked up by the hemoglobin to become carbonominohemoglobin. And then some of it will dissolve. So a very small percent will just dissolve in the plasma. It won't do anything with gas exchange. So this picture, you can kind of see all of it. So remember, your CO2 is coming from your tissues due to cellular respiration. This is what we're looking at now is internal respiration. You can tell because there's a tissue here. So tissues are going to move. So the CO2 that's being produced due to cellular respiration is moving from high to low. So CO2 is going to come in here, right? Most of it will be picked up by the plasma, okay, to become the bicarbonate. And then a small amount will become a carbonominohemoglobin, and then some will dissolve. Okay? Just remembering that medulla oblongata is what controls it. Other than that, that's the end of the lesson. All right, now you'll do some activities to practice.